like I said before, I got a job as an assistant manager at Walmart. And what they did back then, because COVID's changed everything, but this was years ago, is they sent you to Atlanta. It was actually in a hotel and literally past the Brave Stadium they were building in Georgia at the time every day. And we had people from all over Georgia and a couple from Alabama where I'm from, and everybody had different experiences and brought that to the table. Me, I didn't have a damn thing. I got promoted after like 3 months, so I didn't know how to do anything. So I didn't really understand as much because these are people that were department heads. They were zone managers or support managers, which they got rid of a lot of that zone because Walmart will change it up every so often. But the training otherwise was a blast. They paid for our food. We got paid by the hour. We got mileage to and from where we lived, which was a ridiculous amount of money. Like, I swear, one girl lived in Virginia, and they paid her like $800 to not drive home, so it was pretty great. And along with that, like, paying for food, so we ate like kings every night. Like, we ate Pappadeaux, we ate Cheesecake Factory, and because they covered food, we basically spent the money we would have spent on food on liquor. Because they actually got in trouble when I wasn't involved, but a bunch of people got drunk and were messing around at the hotel, making noise and just being difficult. And the people that were training us said, "Yeah, we got a call from the hotel. I just want to remind y'all this is not spring break, because every year we have to throw somebody out of the program for just doing stupid shit. And this is the very thing we don't want y'all to do." Which it couldn't be helped. The hotel was so fancy. They served like free beer and hors d'oeuvres every afternoon. We were always into something. And after 3 months, like, all the training they did, learned a bunch of stuff. They had all these expectations, and I started my job, and they're like, you don't need any of that crap. Just come in and work. And assistant manager is the most thankless job at Walmart. You are in charge of typically 2 to 3 departments, but usually on a given day 6, because if somebody's not there, you got to look after their departments. You got to be in charge of scheduling, and the store manager will walk through the store every morning and have a list of stuff for people to do. Like, he'll walk through with the night manager, and you'll have a list of notes, is what they called it. And some store managers just think if they give the most notes, that's what's the most important. And then it's just you run around trying to delegate and get that stuff done. And in a lot of cases, it was awful because there was some stuff people couldn't do, some stuff people were working on. And honestly, I really didn't care about my section or about anything in general. You got plenty of exercise because you were walking 20 some miles a day. But as assistant manager, I learned how to do everything. Mix paint, I could do it. Cut fabric, sure. Anything in CLE, yeah, you better believe I could do it. You need a key made, yeah, I can do that too. Oh, you need a phone activated, I had to do that. And if you're the night manager at any given time, you may have to do all of those things because there's not always people that are ready. And there's all kinds of just, because it was a different store than the one I was at, so we were a little bit more understaffed than the other one because we never had enough people. Because at the other store on Monday nights was when new DVDs came out and new video games. And at my old store, there was a guy that he did it, him and another guy, the guy that took all the smoke breaks, and he took it so seriously. He acted like he was working on brain surgery or just doing important government work. He's like, yeah, this is what I do. And I'd get people, I tried to get another guy to do it. I was like, you do it, you work 4 to 1, I'll give you the next 2 days off. everybody wins, but he never could get it all done. Because in the case of that, you had to ignore the customers, and it was kind of a pain. But it's not like there was a lot of demand for midnight releases. And I'm trying to think what else. There was always something, like I had a guy get mad that I didn't have enough iPads, because not a lot of people buy their iPads at Walmart. There's not a lot of demand for them. If people aren't buying them, Walmart's not ordering them. And every store is different in how they do things. And he got mad at that. And another time, Straight Talk was the big deal. We sold tons and tons of those $45 monthly cards, and I had a guy come in looking for one. I was like, "Sir, we're out of them. We're out of them every store in town." And he cried. He literally cried. He broke down crying. "I came to this store and I expected y'all to have it, and I didn't expect y'all to not have it. I can't believe you. How could you do that? How could y'all do that to me?" I said, "Well, sir, I can't help it. They're on order. You can always call in and pay." But he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to use a card. He couldn't do any of that. And he did all this in front of his teenage kids. He cried. He's a grown man. And then there's people stealing stuff. There's always people stealing. And we had this AP person who, as far as she was concerned, her job was the first and only and most important thing in the store. And we only had one guy working at that store. Like at my old store, it was serious business. Like they had cameras that could like read the writing on your eyelids if you had any. And they had 3 or 4 people and one guy watching the cameras, and they had disguises and all kinds of other stuff. It was actually pretty cool in that regard. But this one we had one guy, and he was all right, but I think AP's job was just to make you hate them. And then there was a co-manager. He worked his way up from electronics like I did, and everyone hated him. I didn't have anything against him. It's just he had that mentality that nothing was ever good enough. He thought because he gave the most notes, he was the best manager. And there was a backroom manager who, he'd worked there for years. He said, "I've worked with him for 6 years now. And in 6 years, not once has he told me good job, thanked me, or done anything." He said, so when he had to leave, they threw a party, which I thought was great. He left to take over another store. He finally made store manager years later, which is what he wanted. But they were not too happy with him. Because that mentality doesn't breed a good worker. Hey, there's no such thing as a perfect department. Another thing that didn't help was the district manager's office was in our store, and a lot of Walmart district managers and further up, they're lifers. They started out pushing buggies or as a cashier and worked their way up. And he started out in that store, so every time he came in, he would expect better of us, which drove me insane. But that's another story. I mean, he was a good manager. It's just every day with that stuff. But eventually I got to where I was just tired of working all the time. They sent me to another store and paid me mileage, and they loved me there. And I had a great time working there. And then I went back to other stores like, "Oh, well, we got higher standards here." And that's what that co-manager said. After I'd worked my 9th day in a row of 12-hour shifts. Because I swear, when I worked there, I walked at least 15 miles a day. And you're walking 15 miles a day in, like, good, like, dress shoes. You're not walking in sneakers, which I asked, like, "Hey, can we wear better shoes?" Because doing all this walking in shoes that aren't made for walking is not good for your feet. And they didn't care. And we could switch to polos, but my manager was having another, "Oh, no. Y'all are going to be in those blue or white button-ups. We're not wearing those nice Walmart polos." And everything that happened, the assistant manager took the blame. Whether it came down or came up, it was always your fault. The training department cut hours randomly. Well, that's your fault that you don't have coverage. Well, they didn't consult me. Oh, it's still your fault. I said, well, they didn't talk to me. They just cut hours and said whatever, which I thought was unfair, but they just did whatever they wanted, and they just had immunity. Because anybody that's been there 10 years, this is how it works in a lot of places. People that work there a while, as far as they're concerned, they know better than everyone. They've been there longer. They know better than any manager that can come in or anyone else. They've been there 10, 15, 20 years. They know better. Period. And that's just how they thought it worked. But I eventually left for greener pastures, but I've probably talked enough, so I need to talk about it in another video.